Okay, it's working? Yeah.
Some people are joining.
Martin, shall we go live? Can we remove the holding page? No, bisogna farlo adesso. Togli holding page e poi ci sarà ancora mezz'ora. Audio. Okay, fantastic. Okay?
Okay, so
guys, let's resume. Tony will present what are the challenges of contributing to Gerrit. How many of you guys contribute to Gerrit currently? Okay, 1, 2, 3. So if you want to contribute to Gerrit, so Tony will give you some very good lessons on how to do it and just to not give up, right? Go, Tony.
Yeah. So, okay, so thanks everybody to be here. So my name is Antonio Barone. I'm a Gerrit contributor. I work for GerritForge, and I've been Gerrit maintainer for the last couple of years.
Sorry, Tony, you're not presenting, I believe. Can you share your screen?
I may not, sorry.
Are you sharing? Share your screen.
Let me see.
Okay.
Yeah, better?
Yeah, better. Yeah, go for it.
All right. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so yeah, so there is no code involved in this presentation. It's a very high-level presentation about contributing to Gerrit and open source in general. So I'm going to use Gerrit as a framework to touch a few points, and but hopefully there will be some points that you can take to any other open source project out there. Before we get started, who's been contributing to open source projects? There, okay. Okay, so not everybody. So this might resonate with some of you, and hopefully there are some takeaways for some other guys. So we're going to go through Gerrit just very quickly, just to bring everyone on the same page, because the last few days I've been asked what Gerrit is, so not everybody actually knows what Gerrit is, and then we're going to go through challenges of contributing, rewards of contributing, and then we will highlight some takeaways. So let's start from Gerrit. So what's Gerrit? So Gerrit is a tool that was developed by Google, and in particular by a very talented Googler, Sean Pierce, in 2008. And the reason it was created is because more or less at the same time there was another very important project that was facing the world for the first time, which was the Android open source project, which started development in 2007. I think the first release was in 2008 as well. So you can see how these timelines are aligned. And Gerrit is a code review system which is highly integrated with Git, in particular with the JGit implementation. And it's been designed to handle massive scale code review contributions. So since then, Gerrit has become one of the most critical part of the infrastructure of any company that does software that nowadays is pretty much many companies out there. And it's very widely used, not just in the mobile industry, but also in the automotive industries and so many other industries out there. So nowadays is actually powering the collaboration among many companies that work on open source projects out there. And it's been adopted by little by little by many other companies. I'm mentioning a few here: the Eclipse Foundation, LibreOffice, Qt, OpenStack, Chromium Project, Wikimedia, and I could go on for a very long time. So if you guys are here, probably you heard of Gerrit before if you haven't used it directly. So this should all be familiar with you. So Gerrit has a fairly long history, like around 15 years, as we've seen. It's fairly big. It's got like around 4,000 Java files and 750,000 lines of code. And it's not the huge project on that, right? There are much bigger projects, starting from Git. But it's a decent size. It's a medium size. It's bigger than, Nginx, SQLite, many other open source projects that you can see out there. So if you want to start contributing to Gerrit, the first challenge you will need to face is kind of like to start orienteering yourself in this big code base, right? We need to start learning, what to touch, where to touch it. And this is not just even the entire picture, because if I show you some more numbers, you can see that not only you have to deal with a very long commit history, we have more than 100,000 commits in Gerrit, but they're spanning across 206 different projects written by almost 1,000 authors across 250 organizations. And I would like to take your attention to this part, which, more than 200 projects, because Gerrit is actually an ecosystem of different code bases. It is written in a way that is very modular, has very modular architecture, and virtually every part of Gerrit is extensible, and virtually every part of Gerrit has been extended, for which there are plugins and modules that have been created out there. Some of these became core plugins, and they are shipped together with Gerrit. Some of them are actually something that you can decide to download and install. And so that means that if you want to start contributing to Gerrit, the very first thing you need to decide is, where does even my contribution is going to go? It's going to go in the core of Gerrit. It's going to go to a plugin. And so this could be overwhelming for someone that is approaching the Gerrit world for the first time, or at least it was overwhelming for me at the beginning. And you will feel like you're drowning in an ocean of code and plugins, and you don't really know what to touch and how to contribute. But let's assume now you found the right place. Maybe you want to fix a bug, or you want to add a feature to Gerrit. So, well, now levels up, right? So now you must adhere to community guidelines. So these are guidelines that had been agreed upon by Google, which is kind of like the driving force behind Gerrit, together with the community. And this also, obviously means, code styles, whether to write tests and documentation and that sort of thing. And of course, there are tooling. There is tooling that help you to do that. There are linters, and we do static analysis. But the reality is that you must embrace this way of contributing to the project. And if you think about it, this makes sense, because if you are a project that is accepting contributions from people from anywhere in the world, you must sort of protect yourself from being polluted by too many flavors, too many opinions. Otherwise, the code just becomes unmanageable. And again, this is something that could be difficult for someone that is approaching the Gerrit and any open source project at the beginning, because you must embrace these guidelines. For example, for me, the first thing that was really difficult to learn, and still not super easy today, and I think Jacek touched this morning when he talked about code review, was to keep the hygiene of the commit message very, very high. So the Gerrit community is really pedantic about commit messages. There are guidelines about how to structurally making them, with the length of the lines, and some people are even enforcing whether have or not to have a dot at the end of the line when you write your commit message, but you must use the imperative mood when you describe your commits and so forth. And all of these things are something that doesn't come naturally. It's something that you need to learn at the beginning. But the one thing that really is really difficult at the beginning is to actually understand the importance of the commit message, and that you don't just need to explain what the commit message does, because you can infer that from the diff, but actually why you're making that change, and providing that context to yourself in the future and to other fellows contributors of Gerrit. It's the most important thing that you can do in any open source project. And in Gerrit, I think we do that very, very well. So you can go back in time and look at the history, and you will, most of the time, you will have a very clear explanation of why and what was the context in which certain change was made. I have to say that the new advent of AI nowadays helps a lot in this, on this subject as well, because you can get, I think LLMs are really good at describing the most comprehensible way the reason why certain changes were made. And I think there is an integration now in Gerrit that helps doing that. I think Luke is going to talk about some of these features tomorrow. So now finally you found a place where your contribution should go. You learn how to do the contribution by embracing all the guidelines. So now you have to go through code review. And again, Jacek discussed at length about that this morning, but the most important mind shift there is, especially if you're coming from a corporate environment, is that when you're going through code review in an open source project, there is really no ETA, or there is no sprint or quarter that you must follow that you might actually have in your corporation. So the most important thing that matters is the quality of the code, and that's again true in Gerrit. So code reviews can be quite challenging and hard to get merged. I found some example here. You can see how it took 143 different attempts for poor Paradox to get this code merged. Or here, it actually took him 99 different patch sets before he decided to abandon the change. And these are not isolated cases. There are many cases out there where you actually really need to go through different code review iterations before everyone is happy with the quality of the code. And it can be frustrating, but also you know in your heart that this is actually for the good of the project, right? Because it helps maintaining the quality of the code really, really high. To make this situation a little bit even more interesting is that most of the time you're dealing with people that you haven't even met in real life, right? You know, in your corporate environment, you might actually go and walk to speak to your colleagues. Here, you might be working for years with people that you actually haven't even met, and maybe they come from a background that is very culturally different from yours. So even having a good code review relationship there, it's something that needs to be created over time and is not obvious. Also, in an open source project, there are different companies at play, right? So there are different interests, and there is really no single vision when it comes to the development and the direction of the project. You might actually find different contributors or different companies solve the same problem in different ways, or they are just interested in solving different problems altogether. So it's not unusual to see tension and conflicts on changes that are very controversial for whatever reason, right? So you might have, I'm always picking up on paradox here. I don't know why. I just found it. But yeah, so you might actually find changes like this one where you have one party that says +2, this is amazing, it should definitely be merged, and on the other side you have some other contributor or some other company at play that just says -2. -2 is not even a -1. It means this is not going to be merged. There are no changes that you can, no modifications that you can make to this code. It's just the wrong approach is not going to be. So these cases are not unusual. Sometimes there are, you get to like an impasse where, there are some situations that are difficult to solve. We have an ESC committee, which is usually, I don't think it happens very often, but it's kind of like leveraged to kind of like break these ties should they happen. And the reality in open source really is that there is this sort of like natural selection when it comes to changes, right? This is not even a worst case that can happen. Worst case is what is actually be starving for code reviews. You might have been working for days or for weeks on some change, and then you definitely, at some point you're ready to put it out there, and nobody really cares. Nobody really gives you any feedback at all, or you're just ignored, and it can be frustrating, right? Because usually this is a dynamic that doesn't really happen in a corporate environment. And but that also means that the changes that are most important for the community are the ones that actually will make it through, they will survive. So they will be code reviewed and merged. the code moves really fast. So you have contributions happening, 24/7, contributions coming from every time zone, and you go to bed very happy that you've done something. Maybe you even managed to merge your change, and then you wake up the day after, and maybe that was reverted because you broke someone else's workflow that you didn't even know existed, right? And but again, in a way, this is good because it will force you kind of like to think outside your own personal experience with the project, and to actually have visibility on the fact that there are other workflows out there that you need to be aware of. But yeah, the code changes very fast. So yeah, if you're blinking, you might have missed some of the changes that happen. And I think this is very true in Gerrit. I'm sure there are other open source projects that are changing even at a faster rate. And so it's kind of your responsibility to keep yourself up to date on all these changes, and especially the changes that are relevant for you. And luckily enough, Gerrit has a really good notification system that you can subscribe to, so you can actually keep yourself up to date on the things that you really care about. So why should anyone endure this painful challenge of like contributing, struggling for code reviews, and learning new code styles, and maybe even starving for code reviews, being reverted changes, or being ignored? And the reality is that the only moving force behind this is that you actually choose an open source project that you deeply care about. Right? It could be something that you're really interested in, something that you're really good at. It could be a domain that you really care about. Or it could be the opposite. It could be something that you're really bad at and you really want to improve yourself. You want to learn some skills that you don't have. So you choose an open source project because that will be the ground on which you can learn new things. And you will not be alone. Gerrit has a great community around it. There is a Discord server where people can answer, can help you out. There is a mailing list, which is also very very active, and many answers many questions get answered there. So you will be part of this community. You will be appreciated for it, and I think there is even a kudos page somewhere where people that do special things get mentioned. I think this was initiated by Edwin at Google a while ago. And you will be working with top engineers, like as I mentioned before, there are some really great companies behind Gerrit. Google is one of them, NVIDIA, SAP, Wikimedia, GerritForge. So you will be exposed to great, engineering practices. It's kind of like a way to peek into how these companies work from the outside. So when you contribute to an open source project, you get to actually see how these big companies are solving hard problems, and you will be better because of it. And all these hard code reviews that you have to go through will actually improve your coding skills quite a lot. I have to say that, in my opinion at least, becoming an open source contributor, one of the most important skills they will give you is the confidence to open any code out there, any library, without fearing of not understanding what it does. It will give you that confidence that you can then take back to your corporate environment, and it's something that is very difficult to experience outside the open source world. And also, this is not just theories. You will be, your contributions will affect, thousands, tens of thousands of developers out there. This is not just an intellectual exercise. And Gerrit sees the main gate, one of the main gates through which money comes into many companies nowadays. If you look at your phone in the Android Android is running on it, or if you look at the infotainment of most of the cars that we are driving on today, then Gerrit somehow is involved behind that development, and you can just take pride in knowing that you were part of that journey. So yeah, challenges are real but surmountable. You will gain skills, and you will be part of a community, and you will have a real impact in the world. So the community will be better because of you if you decide to join an open source project, and you will be better. You will be a better coder, a better engineer because of it. So yeah, my invitation is to really, if you haven't done it before, like to really think about contributing to, not necessarily Gerrit, if that's not your cup of tea, but any open source project that you deem worthy, because you just, it will open doors that you cannot even imagine today, or at least it did for me. So, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Sorry, we are just running a little bit late, but I want to make one question, not to Tony, but to the audience. How many of you, after listening to Tony's talk, would like to try contributing to Gerrit? Raise your hand.
One.
That's
We got
good.
one guy.
Even one is good. Yeah. So one thing that we did in the past was actually doing a contribution hackathon. If you remember, I don't know, Martin, if you were there, the one that we did in Volvo Cars. We basically did a hackathon only for encouraging people to come and contribute, and